Welcome to Journey with the Jays. Spencer, John, and Jake here with you on this NFL Sunday edition of our show. JB and Jeff Cadillac will not be joining us today, so we wish them well. But gentlemen, let's get into it. Before we get into it, our spreads today are brought to you by the Heater app. Check them out on Twitter. All right, as always, I want to start with the Atlanta Falcons game. They are playing the Los Angeles Chargers. They are favored in this game by 2.5 points. So, John, you finished 2-2 last week, as did I. Jake, you went 1-3. Let's start with you. Who do you like in this game?
I like the Falcons. They're playing good football. I love the way they've played recently. They may not be, winning every game, and of course the Falcons are not going to win many games. I hate to say they're not a playoff team. They're not going very far. But, a Saints team that's a good team, they kept pace with them. And I understand that does slightly reflect on the Saints because, the Saints did play down to competition. But nonetheless, they kept it competitive. They didn't lose the game outright. They didn't get, absolutely blown out like they very well could have with a team like the Saints. They kept it close. And again, they in the games, not against the Saints in their past few games, they've played well. Raiders, they dropped 43. They, killed that game. Broncos, they dropped 34 and they won that game. Panthers dropped 25 and they win that game. And they just narrowly lose to the Lions. In the game before that, they dropped 40 and beat the Vikings. So you look at all those games, they lose to the Saints twice. What's the big deal on that? Saints are a playoff contender and Super Bowl aspirations for that team. That's great. Besides that, they're playing pretty good football. They're keeping it competitive. I like them this week. And Chargers got killed last week. I don't know. I think Falcons are going to pounce on that. The fact that, their momentum is low. I think the Falcons are going to get at that. John, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm all over the Chargers here. You could beat 45-0 at home to the Patriots, and then the Falcons, who are not a good team, are coming in. It's going to be a long day for the Atlanta Falcons. I know they've been playing well, as you said, but Justin Herbert's going to be mad. Austin Eckler is going to be a guy that the Falcons are going to have a tough time covering. And then Keenan Allen is a guy that's really hard to stop. Falcons really don't have a great secondary. I think this has blowout written all over it. That is actually one of my picks is the Chargers plus 2.5. I think that's a layup. The Falcons aren't a good team. The Chargers aren't either, but Chargers can put up points. Falcons only put up, 9 last week against the Saints, so their offense still didn't look great. The offensive line's not great. And with Joey Bosa could have a field day. He could have 4 sacks easily in this game because that's not a great line right now. So easily Chargers.
Just a quick correction. Falcons put up 16 this week.
16.
It was
9, and then they got a score. When
3 weeks ago that was 9. 3 weeks ago that was their first game against the Saints.
But they basically got a touchdown at the end with Russell Gage that didn't matter. So, but their offense didn't look good even with Julio. Their offense did not look good. Granted, the Saints are a good defense, but their offense hasn't looked very good lately. Besides that Raiders game. So,
really?
Come on. Do you really think they can
scoring 34 not good enough for you?
But has their offense looked great? Todd Gurley can't run the ball. Julio Jones is limping.
They have looked good.
You got to outscore Justin Herbert. I know they didn't score against the Pats, but Bill Belichick's a magician of that defense. So I just think this has Justin Herbert throws 450 yards and 5 touchdowns written all over it.
450, wow.
Yeah. It's not going to be pretty for the Falcons. Sorry, Falcons fans, but you're going to close your eyes for this one.
So I'll tell you guys this. We think that the Cleveland Browns are 9-3 because of the way they're coached, right, John? On our Thursday show, you were raving about Kevin Stefanski.
Kevin Stefanski has done a really nice job.
He has. He's been great. What is the Chargers' record?
I think
what is the Los Angeles Chargers record?
Do they have 2 wins or 3? I don't know the record. It's 2 or 3 wins they have.
Los Angeles
Chargers have 3 wins. Don't mean to cut you off. 3 wins.
Okay. No, 3 wins. Thank you, Jake. The Chargers will not start winning football games until they make a change at coaching. Anthony Lynn is not a good football coach this season. He's been one of the worst in the league. This is not a 3-win team, guys. They are way too talented to only have that many wins. I think the Falcons will cover this game. I like the way they've been playing under Raheem Morris, the interim head coach. I agree, John. Their offense hasn't been great. It's been okay. It's been up and down, sure. But at the end of the day, I think that the Chargers they're not coached well. And I think that they're going to find a way to lose this game. I like the Falcons. I'm with Jake. I've been picking the Falcons a lot these last few weeks. I don't know why, because the first 5 weeks of the season I picked against them. But I don't know. This is one of those weeks where I do like them. And John, you said the Chargers are home, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
I like the Falcons on the road. I'll take the Falcons with the 2.5 points. All right, let's get to our lock of the week. John, I want to start with you. Who do you like in this game? And I'm sorry, who is your lock of the week this week?
My lock of the week is Philadelphia at home against the Saints. I know the Saints have done well lately. They're, I believe, 10-2. However, they played the Falcons, the Broncos without a quarterback, and then they played the Falcons again. So with Taysom Hill, who's going to be the starter in this game, you got to prove it. I mean, Darius Slay's a good cornerback. You know, Fletcher Cox, he can eat you up. So they got some playmakers on that defense. And Taysom Hill's really got to prove he can go into Philly and beat that defense, because Jalen Hurts is starting, and there's going to be a little bit of electricity for Philly, a little bit of hope. I know you Giants fans are shaking your head no, but whenever you have a quarterback change, it's a spark. They showed a spark against Green Bay. They almost came back. So anytime you change quarterbacks, it's to provide a spark. And he drafted him in the second round, and he looked half decent in a small sample size. So I like Philly to cover. The +7 is a lot. That's a lot to ask if you're taking the Saints in this game. So I like Philly. That 7 should be something where you feel comfortable betting on Philly in this one at home.
Totally.
Because Carson Wentz isn't playing anymore, so
it doesn't matter.
But he's the reason that they're losing.
No, he's really not, and that's the problem. I think this is the biggest problem that Eagles fans have have blamed everything on Carson Wentz. He is one of the worst offensive lines I have literally ever seen. They are an atrocity. They are. I'm sorry, but they don't deserve to be called an offensive line. They should be called a Swiss cheese. I don't know what else to call them. They're terrible. Carson Wentz is getting killed back there. And I'm not saying that Carson Wentz has played well, but when you have that bad of an offensive line, what are you expected to do? Do you seriously think Jalen Hurts is going to do much better? Absolutely not. And just because you do a quarterback change, I'm just telling you now, just an FYI, it does not always mean that there's a spark. Okay. Let's talk about the Bears for a second. They did a quarterback change. They won 1 game. After
they don't have a guy like Jalen Hurts.
Hold on. A guy like Jalen Hurts, we don't know what he's going to be. We don't know yet. Okay, they brought in Nick Foles and they won their Falcons game. Then they lost the next week to the Colts. Okay, that automatically doesn't mean anything.
But Trubisky and Foles are nothing like Jalen Hurts, potential-wise.
But potential doesn't mean anything until we've seen it, and that's the thing. We don't know what Jalen Hurts is going to be. We don't know what to expect from him, and he's playing an extremely tough defense in the Saints. I couldn't in a million years. I don't care who the rookie quarterback would have been. I wouldn't pick them. If this was against, let's say, the Jags, I'd be like, yeah, I could see the Eagles winning. But against that Saints defense, it's not going to happen. Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill and Michael Thomas, awesome offense. And the defense, again, they're really great. Top 5 defense, playing extremely well. I don't see the Eagles defense stopping that offense, and I sure as heck don't see the Eagles offense scoring on that Saints defense. It's going to be Saints all day. As JB said last week, when the Saints come marching in.
I have a joke for you guys, and I want you to rank the joke from 1 to 10, 10 being the funniest. You hear about how Jalen Hurts starting this game affected Carson Wentz. How? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it really hurts Carson Wentz. that he's not starting this game. That's a terrible joke. You guys should give that a 1. I like the Eagles to cover in this game. Not because they're a good football team. I think that the Saints have been that untouchable team these past few weeks, and they're not. Like, they're not an untouchable team. Taysom Hill is going to, have a game where he's forced to make some throws, and they're not. I think this is one of those games where I think the Eagles defense comes to play. I think Hurts is going to, do whatever he can to put them in a position. I think the Eagles are going to lose this game, but I think it's going to be close enough to the point where the Saints are going to break down a little bit. It's going to be under 7. And you know what? I think the Eagles actually have a chance. I do. I think they have a chance to win this game. I think the Saints are due for a major letdown. We saw from the Steelers last week, like we saw from the Seahawks last week. I like John's Eagles pick. Would I make it my lock of the week? I wouldn't, but I'm not as bold a man as he is.
Interesting. I can't say I agree, but that's why it's not my pick of the week. Spencer, you had a decent week last week, didn't you?
Yeah, I went 2-2. I don't even know what my overall record is. I know I'm leading everyone. I think I'm probably a game or two up.
Your record is currently 15-16-1.
All right. So even with a losing record, I think I'm still in the league unless JB went 3-1 or 4-0 last week. My lock of the week is the New York Football Giants. They are plus 2.5 against the Arizona Cardinals. Guys, they just played the Cardinals. They just played Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf. Tell me that Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson aren't similar quarterbacks. If anything, I like Russell Wilson over Kyler Murray. Hopkins might be a little bit better and more established than Metcalf, but the Giants know how to play these guys. Jake, I know you saw some of those Jabril Peppers blitzes that Patrick Graham was throwing at Wilson last week. You're going to see a little bit of that against Kyler this week. They're going to make Murray and Cliff Kingsbury uncomfortable on offense. I can see Murray making a few mistakes. Is it going to be McCoy or Jones? Do we know yet, guys?
We're not sure. As of recording this, we are not sure.
Well, guess what? I don't care if it's freaking Alex Tanney. I don't care who the Giants put at quarterback. Their running game is great with Gallman and Alfred Morris. And by the way, shout out Alfred Morris. What, he scored 2 touchdowns last week? That was friggin' awesome, man. Yeah, so I love the Giants this week. Their defense is balling out. The offense is playing okay enough. I can see them winning this game 24-20. What do you guys think?
I'm with you, Spencer. You know what? I wasn't bold enough to quite make them one of my picks this week. However, they were a heavy consideration. Look, Giants have one of the better defenses in the last few weeks. Not one of the best, but better. I don't want to say best because that's a little bit of a stretch. They played very well. Patrick Graham has dialed up some incredible calls in his last few weeks. He's gotten this defense of, mostly no names. Mostly. I mean, there are some names, of course, James Bradbury, Leonard Williams, Jabril Peppers, Blake Martinez. There are names, but the majority of the guys are not big names. Like most guys on that defense, I can't even name, and I'm a Giants fan. And so that gives credit to the coaching that's been done. They look great. And if they can stop Russell Wilson and shut him down like they did, because they made Russell Wilson very ineffective, which is very hard to do. I don't see why they can't do it to Kyler Murray. Russell Wilson's been in the league longer. He has more experience. He knows the league better. He knows how to adjust better, right? And if he couldn't get it figured out, what makes you think that Kyler Murray can be any better, right? He's younger, less experienced, doesn't necessarily know the league and how to adjust to situations as well yet. Okay, he has just as good a receiver in DeAndre Hopkins, because when you think DeAndre Hopkins versus DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, I would probably say, I would probably actually prefer Lockett and Metcalf as opposed to just Hopkins, because Hopkins is just one guy, as opposed to the two of them are two great receivers. They're awesome.
That's a really good point.
Duo.
That's a great
and the
point.
Giants shut them down. I mean, they didn't do nothing, but they didn't go out and kill us like I thought they could and probably would. So, you know what? If the Giants defense is going to continue to do what it's doing and just its offense do just enough, to just score just enough points against a not so great defense, which is exactly what they did with the Seahawks, right? Seahawks not a great defense, Cardinals not a great defense either. Giants offense can do just enough to score enough points and rely on that defense, which I personally can trust them. You know what? I said a couple weeks ago, give the Dolphins their respect for their defense. It's time to give the Giants their respect for their defense, because their defense is a lot better than anybody could have seen coming. Like I'm blown away by how well they played, and they're a top 10 defense right now. Like they're ranked top 10 in terms of, I believe Pro Football Reference has them top 10. So they are at least ranked top 10 right now. John, what do you think?
Yeah, this one should be an easy one. I'm going with the Giants too. Not because I don't believe in Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, but that team has really, it says to me more about the Cardinals than the Giants. The Cardinals are really falling apart at the seams, and it's happening fast. Like they're not even in the playoffs right now fast. The Vikings have the last spot of them. That's how far the Cardinals have fallen. They've fallen completely apart. There's no run game. Kyler Murray's making mistakes. And I think it's because I think he's hurt. I think he's hurt, and he's not going to say it. I think he's still banged up. That shoulder is really, really bothering him. He's not running the ball as much as he normally does. He's not as crisp with his passes. He's fumbling. He's throwing picks. It's not the Kyler Murray we saw a couple weeks ago. And he hasn't looked the same since that injury against Seattle. He's completely different guy since that injury in Seattle. He looked bad that game. Looked bad in New England. He looked bad last week against the Rams. Now, granted, those are better defenses, but it's just he doesn't look right. Something looks off, and I think it's that sprained AC joint. And that team goes as far as he takes them. And with him being banged up, I just think they continue to fall apart.
Two quick things, Jake, before you give your lock of the week on the Giants. They were 10.5-point underdogs last week against Seattle, and they won. How much better is Seattle than Arizona? Not that much. They're 2.5-point underdogs. So John, you're absolutely right. The margin is not very it's not very big. And the second thing I wanted to say about the Giants, and Jake, you can attest to this. I know JB would agree. How much of a roller coaster ride is it to watch Evan Ingram play tight end? I mean, there are moments in every single game this year where you want to hug the guy, and there are moments where you want him to never step on the football field, to never wear a Giants uniform again. That interception that Colt McCoy threw was 100% on Evan Ingram. Absolutely. And he does something like that in every single game.
You're right. There are times where I'm literally ready to jump through my TV and start strangling him. And there are other times where I'm ready to jump through and give him the biggest bear hug I've ever given, because he just won us the game. Like, he made the play of the game. It's what he does. He's that kind of guy. You never know when it's going to happen, which is the problem. There are times where you think this is his moment, and then he lets you down. And then there are other times this is where he's going to screw up, and all of a sudden, oh my God, this was his moment. You never know with the guy. But you're right. You're right. Absolutely. And that's the life of a Giants fan in general, though. Like, just never knowing what they're going to do. That's how the Giants are, just generally. But now I'll get into my pick of the week. This week it's basically just a pick 'em at that point. When you look at the spread, I'm taking the Texans this week. The Texans are, or I believe it was like a 1 point. So it's you can call that a pick 'em. Don't worry about it.
You had 1 point. I had pick 'em. Yep.
Yeah. So either way, just call it a pick 'em. It doesn't matter. Texans on the road against a struggling Bears team. I gotta give my hat off to the Texans. Tip my hat. They played some darn good football as of late. Okay, Colts are good defense. They scored 20 points and kept it close. Destroyed the Lions the week before. Beat a decent Patriots defense. I think they're decent. They're not great, but they're decent. Beat them and kept it very close with the Browns. And I can just keep going. They've kept their games close, or they've won them outright. They're doing better than I expected. They're playing better football. Deshaun Watson speaks for himself. He's Deshaun Watson, and he doesn't necessarily get the spotlight that the other guys get because of the team he's on. He's a great quarterback, no doubt about that. And again, struggling Bears team. They barely got anything going with that quarterback situation of theirs. It's nightmarish. It doesn't matter who's starting. They're not doing much. I love the Texans this week. I really think that it's going to be another big game. You saw what they were able to do to the Lions. They scored 41 points. I'm not saying they're going to score another 41 points because I understand they are without Will Fuller, and I acknowledge that. But at the same time, they're playing better. I think they got a good shot this week, and out of pick 'em, easy, not even a question. Spencer, what do you think?
I agree with you. I like the Texans. The Bears passed on Deshaun Watson. When they had the opportunity to draft him, they chose Mitch Trubisky. You don't think that Deshaun Watson is amped up every single time that he faces the Chicago Bears? And I don't know how many times he's played them in his career, but I know if it was me and I was someone who had Watson's athletic God-given talent.
This would be the first.
Okay, there you go, John. He's going to go nuts. This is going to be a blowout. The Bears are not going to have an answer for Deshaun. Their offense is going to look terrible. Trubisky is going to struggle. I think they have one of the worst run games in the league. There was a hilarious play. I don't know if it was last week or the week before where David Montgomery, I think on one of the first carries of the ball game, he had like a 50-yard run and he got tackled at the 7-yard line. The Bears not only proceeded not to score on that drive, David Montgomery touched the ball a total of like 5 to 6 times after that. The Bears are a terrible team. Matt Nagy is someone who I can see lose his job in the offseason. And I just think the Texans are playing inspired football right now, Jake. You said they're playing better. I think the word is inspired. They were an awful football team to start the year. They've been a little bit better recently. Sure, Will Fuller took some steroids and now he's not playing the rest of the year. I always find that fascinating when guys take steroids in the NFL and test positive. It's like, all right, like you tried to get away with it, but clearly you got caught. They still got some decent receivers on that team. I think if I'm not mistaken, Randall Cobb is on that team.
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks. If those guys are healthy. And Kuti. Oh, the guy Kuti's been balling out. I actually sat him in fantasy, which is of course why I'm terrible at fantasy football. But no, listen, Watson's gonna complete passes if it's Jake, John, and Spenser out there. He's a good enough quarterback, and Mitch Trubisky's terrible. I like the Texans pick. John, what about you?
I actually like the Bears to get off the schneid. They're at home. They're playing a Texans team that's not very good. And David Montgomery's been running the ball really well lately, and the Texans can't stop the run. So I think Allen Robinson will have a field day for them. I think Jimmy Graham, really, there's not a lot to stop Jimmy Graham out there. And a mobile quarterback against that Texans defense really can do damage. So I think if they stick with Trubisky this week, not a great offense, but it'll be just enough to beat. Since it is a pick 'em, it'll be just enough to beat the Texans, a team that is not trying to tank, but they for their draft picks, they need to lose some games. The Bears are still trying to get into the playoffs or a game out of the playoffs. So the Bears have something to fight for. The Texans don't. The Bears have lost, I believe, 6 in a row or 7 in a row. Bears have lost 7 in a row. So the Bears need a win, and I think the Bears will get one just for pride's sake at home.
7 in a row. I don't see why it would stop now, especially against as Spencer put it. I think that was a good way to describe it. An inspired team. No, I absolutely not. I'm with Spencer again. I actually think it's going to be a blowout. So,
all right, there you have it.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's get to the rest of our picks. I'll give JB's because JB's not here. I have his picks, actually. He couldn't be on the show. He feeling a little bit under the weather, so shout out, JB. Hope you're feeling better. But we still do have his picks this week, so we do know what JB is picking. JB will be taking the Chargers against the Falcons this week. He's taking the Browns versus the Colts. Versus the Ravens. He's taking the Colts versus the Raiders, and he is taking the Jets against Seattle. I'm assuming he doesn't think the Jets will win, of course, but I'm assuming he's thinking somehow they keep it close like they did last week because crazy things are happening in this weird year. I'll throw it to you, Spencer, because you had a better week than I did, so we'll start with you on the rest of your picks.
Yeah, I went 2-2 last week. I'm 15-16-1 overall. This week, like I said earlier, I like the Falcons plus 2.5 against the Chargers. I like the Giants plus 2.5 over the Cardinals. That's my lock of the week. I like the Bills minus 2.5 over the Steelers. I think the Steelers are due for another loss after that Washington game. I don't think they're playing great football. I think the Bills can kind of take advantage of a team coming off a bad loss. I also, Jake, I agree with you. I like the Texans against the Bears. Like all the reasons I said earlier. So I have the Falcons, the Giants, the Bills, and the Texans. John, what about you?
Yeah, so I have Indy, negative 2.5. I really like Indy in this game. I like Indy. I like the Chargers over the Falcons, plus 2.5 Chargers. I like them to bounce back after getting beat 45-0. Teams that get beat like that typically, I like to show a little pride. Philly, as I said, my lock of the week, plus 7 at home against the Saints. And then I like Tennessee, going to Jacksonville. Negative 7. Mike Glennon's not a good quarterback. The defense for Tennessee is not very good, but Tennessee, this is a get-right game. And I think they're really going to lay it on Jacksonville to get right. I think Derrick Henry is going to have himself a nice day down in Florida, and they'll get right. They'll get healthy, just in time as the playoffs start to get closer. They really need this win, so they're going to lay it on their division rival.
All right. Well, my picks of the week, like I said, my lock are the Texans this week in a pick 'em. I'm also taking the Packers. I'm taking the Bills, and I am, as I mentioned also previously, I am taking the Falcons. I think it's personally a little bit hard to root against, or rather pick against both Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen with the way those guys are playing. I think those speak for themselves. And Texans and Falcons, I already mentioned before.
All right, that does it for this week of Journey with the Jays NFL Sunday edition. Big thanks to Mark Berry for the music. You can check out all our spreads on the Heater app. Thanks for listening, and tune into our show on Thursdays, Real 1100 AM radio, 6 to 7 p.m. All right. Thanks for listening, guys.
And be sure to also check us out on Twitter. Don't want to forget that. Always check us out on Twitter at Journey with the 3. You can find myself at Jake_Malik. Spenser is at Mr. Soft42, and John is BlueHawks13. And JB, we aren't forgetting about him, even though he's not on the show. Don't forget about him. He is at JB_the program. And also be sure to check out JB's other show, since I'm talking about it, the program where he does a lot of interviews. Spenser, you want to talk about your show really quickly?
Yeah, I host 2 podcasts, the Last Resort Sports Podcast and the Fireside Nets Podcast. John?
John, I think you're muted.
I do this every week. You can check me out, BlueHawks13, obviously, on Twitter. Check me out, Fantasy and Flavors, on Thursday nights, 7 to 8. I cover the Baltimore Ravens professionally. Baltimore Ravens are currently winning over the Cowboys, so you're going to want to check that show out. I cover the Ravens on there. It's a great date show.
All right. Well, I think that then does it for us, Journey with the Jays. Thanks for listening, and we will see you guys next week.